Hi, teacher.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Great. Are you going to your aunt's house again?
Um, I'm so taken.
Are you going to your family's house again?
Yes, I am go to Shiheji, to another city. Um,
Oh, okay. Are you going to see family or to visit for fun?
with my family.
With your family. Oh, nice. What are you going to do there?
Um, I going to do. Can teacher ask again?
Sure. What are you going to do when you are there?
I going to there to say my uh to say my um niece.
Oh, okay. How old is your niece?
Um, my niece it's a baby.
Oh,
Now he's 3 months.
3 months. Oh, how beautiful.
In
How old is, or,
2 weeks.
in 2 weeks? So 3.5 months old?
Um, uh, a niece and I think uh uh a nephew. Yes, a niece and a nephew. They are all 3 months, and they are 100 days.
Oh, wow. Are they twins? Are they the same age? Oops, sorry. Twins. Are they twins?
Mm. They are not twin, but uh they are 1 day they are 1 day brown.
Apart. Wow.
Yes, it is. This is my two sisters, daughter and son.
Oh, wow. So 1 day apart? That's amazing. So they were
Yes,
pregnant at the same time, right? They were
yes.
pregnant? Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what are you going to do with your niece and nephew?
Um, I going to see them.
Just to see them, right? Well, they're 3 months. They
Yes.
can't do a lot of things. Yeah. So are you going to go for to eat with them or for a walk or just stay in the house?
In this house, to there I play with them.
Okay.
They are so cute.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, 3 months old is they're very fun, but it's still they're very young, right? They're still very young, so it's difficult to they cry a lot and they get tired a lot. So
Yes.
yeah, I have a 4 month old, so I have a 4 month old baby, so I know she was obviously just 3 months old a month ago. So, um, so yeah, so these are really beautiful times in their lives, but they're really difficult too sometimes. Yeah, well, that's good. Okay, good. So what do you want to practice with today? Anything in particular?
Can teacher speak
Yeah.
again?
Anything that you want to talk about today? Is there anything you want to talk about?
Teacher design.
Okay, so I saw in the news about natural disasters. Do you know what those are? Natural disasters?
The natural disaster. Yes.
What are some examples? Can you think of some?
The natural disaster. It's about um, it's about um, I think the typhoon.
Typhoon, perfect. That's a good example, right? Especially now in China, there was a typhoon, right? There was a typhoon. How do you pronounce this? Likima? Likima, is that right?
Yes.
Likima? Yeah,
Yes.
so this was a natural disaster that just hit yesterday, right? It was very, very devastating. It was a very very destructive disaster, right? Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me more?
The destructive. I think this is can make lot of um lot of lot of advertising broad fall down and was make people hurt.
Okay, so it hurt a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people, right? So I think, yeah, a lot of people were hurt, and I think 22 people died. So even people died, yeah. And what else happened during this disaster? What were some of the other things that happened?
The dangerous disaster. I think lots of people cannot cannot go away home, and they can't work. And if they go to the outside, something like something something fall down and can strike them, can hit them.
Can hit them. Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of different things that can fall down because of the typhoon. Trees can fall down. Some buildings or structures can fall down and can hit them. What about landslides? What is this? Do you know what a landslide is?
Landslide.
Mm-hmm.
I think the landslide can. If the landslide have the way, if some car in this way, they can be hit, and they if they have the hill, they will fall down in the hill, and something will die.
Exactly, yeah. So so a landslide is when there's a lot of water and a lot of flooding. And I think we talked about flooding before, right? Flooding is when there's a lot of water on the ground, and the landslide is when the water becomes so much that the land is saturated. It is actually full of water, and it starts to actually slide, right? So sliding is when it moves. So it starts to move. So for example, like on the side of a mountain or on a hill, the landslide is like mud that will come down. Mud is a mixture of water and sand, right? Or earth. So it's and water, sorry, and water. So this is very dangerous, right? I think it's one of the most destructive natural disasters. Are you close to the typhoon? You were not close, right? Are you on the east coast of China?
South east China. I hear, but I can't see.
So you don't live close to where the natural disaster was, right? So where Likima was?
I think something. I think it's not.
No, you don't. Okay.
But in my hometown, it's not very. It's not very big. Earthquake, but it has some earthquake. It's small, but it's not in my city. But we will feel the earthquake.
Okay, right. I think we talked about earthquakes before, right? So with earthquakes, you have a a lot of destruction too. But I guess in your situation, the destruction's not as severe because the earthquake is not as severe as it could be. Like in California, for example, or in other parts of China, earthquakes can be very, very powerful, right? That's a problem. Can you think of other types of natural disasters? What's another example of a natural disaster?
Other disasters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other disaster, like the ice, the ice, the ice mountain melt, and I don't know that is to say the ice mountain melt and the sea level high,
Okay.
and to
So that's not really, well, that can be considered a natural disaster. I think you're right. That can be considered a natural disaster. But usually natural disasters are very sudden, and the glaciers melting are not sudden, but it can be considered a natural disaster. Yeah. There's sorry?
the connection is not very good, teacher.
The connection's not good. Okay. Let's see. Let's try this one.
I can't see, teacher.
You can't
I
see.
can hear.
You can't hear me or see me? Okay. Hold on 1 second, okay? 1 moment.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Avalanche. Okay. So, an avalanche. Do you know what this is?
Yes, that is.
What is an avalanche?
Yes. Yes. Avalanche. And the post, and it has the posters, and the another that can picture
What is this? Eruption.
That is lots of mountains can put up fire.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this is like a volcanic eruption? Is this similar?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Okay, so yes, that's exactly it. That's another type of natural disaster, right? So earthquake, avalanche, volcanic eruption. Do you know what this one is? Tornado?
Tornado.
Mm-hmm.
The tornado is like the landslide.
Is it?
It
So it's a little. Well, it can be like the landslide.
it's also it's like the typhoon.
A little bit like a typhoon, but it's more about wind, right? So tornadoes are like wind, like a cyclone, right? Like wind cyclones is similar. So tornadoes.
Yes, I know. that
Mhm.
case, that, that case, a windy, it's a big wind, and that
Exactly. So tornadoes are similar.
a big wind.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. So like for example, Kansas. Do you know the Wizard of Oz? Do you know the movie The Wizard of Oz?
And this one of the movie. Uh,
It's an old.
and
It's an old movie.
Kansas is an American city.
Mhm. Exactly. It's an American state, right? So it's a state in America, and it was popular because in The Wizard of Oz, in a movie, they. I'll send you this to show you. So this is it. Do you know this movie?
I don't. I think I don't. Oh, this is a book. I read this book.
Okay, perfect, good. So do you remember in the beginning of the book, she is in a very fast a storm, right? There's a storm that and then she goes to the land of Oz. That was a tornado. That was actually a tornado.
Yes.
Right. So
In the center of this, so she tells it don't speak. It can't be destroyed. And she goes to another city.
Exactly. So that's a tornado, and that's popular because in Kansas, in the state of Kansas, there are many tornadoes. There are a lot of tornadoes, so it's very common to experience a tornado in that state, in that area. So tornadoes are like wind cyclones. Sometimes they are over water. So in water, they're called I think they're called spouts. Storms, blizzards, hailstones. I think they're called spouts, but I just want to make sure. But if they're really big, sometimes it's a hurricane. Do you know what a hurricane is?
The hurricane, it's always a big, windy.
Yeah.
It's like a typhoon, and the
tornado. Yeah, sometimes even.
I don't know. It's different from.
Sometimes the hurricane.
And teacher tell me
the difference. Yeah, so a hurricane is a lot bigger and a lot stronger. So a hurricane can cover a lot of area, and it's usually it usually includes a lot of water, so a lot of flooding, and a lot of wind. So sometimes within a hurricane, there are tornadoes. So sometimes one hurricane will have 100 tornadoes inside of it. A very strong hurricane can have a lot of tornadoes inside of it. And if it's over water, that's usually where they receive most of their power. So this is an example of a hurricane. That picture is a hurricane. And hurricanes are really destructive. Tornadoes are destructive too, but hurricanes are very destructive because they cover a lot more area. They can cover a lot of area, more than a tornado. So in Florida, where I'm from, there are a lot of hurricanes, and hurricanes are really really destructive in Florida because of all the wind and water and flooding. There's a lot of flooding that happens, and a lot of people can lose their house because of the destruction. So it's really sad. Yeah. Tornadoes are destructive too, but they're usually destructive in isolation. So they might destroy one house but not another house. So sometimes it depends, right? Do you have hurricanes or tornadoes in China?
In China, we don't hear we have the hurricane in China.
Yeah, just there's typhoons, right? And what about well, I'm not sure of the word in China, but we use the word tsunami. It's like a big wave. Big wave. Which could be typhoon, right? So we use this word too, tsunami, to talk about a big wave. Are there any tsunamis, like so with flooding? Right.
I think the first the tsunami big wave. I always say it happened in the Japanese, but I don't say it happened in China. But I don't know in the history it is happened.
Right.
But I know when the tsunami big wave happened, and the Japanese nuclear power plant sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually, well, so we use the Japanese word tsunami, but we also you can use tidal wave too. Tidal wave is tsunami. It's the same. And tidal waves are those huge waves that, like you said, can be caused by either eruptions, but man-made eruptions, or I should say human-made eruptions, or natural, like volcanic eruptions in the water, right? So if there's a volcano under the ocean and it erupts, it can cause a tidal wave, which can eventually hit the land and cause a lot of destruction, right? So that's a problem. Yeah. And then there's one more that we can talk about. Well, there's a lot, but there's a few more actually. So there's a blizzard. Do you know this word, blizzard?
Blizzard. Blizzard. The blizzard it have a lot of snow, and it's a big. It has a big snow. But I think the winter always have the snow, but I don't know the blizzard level.
Right. So blizzards are when you have when a lot of people are hurt or die in a snowstorm. So when there's high winds, so very strong winds that create the snow to be so thick or dense that you cannot see, and a lot of people can die or be hurt by it. Yeah, that's a blizzard, and it's usually when there's an unusual amount of snow, like very heavy snow and strong winds. But you're right, snowstorms can be blizzards. It depends on the context, right? It depends on how severe the snowstorm actually is and where it is, right? So that's also a problem. And then there's one more. So this is a little bit. So this is natural. So a natural wildfire is the last one to talk about. So what is a natural wildfire?
Yes, I know the wildfire. It is happening in the forest.
Happening in the forest.
Lots of trees.
Yeah.
Wrong. And it is fast.
Yeah, it's really fast, right? And very destructive to the forest. Yeah, so natural wildfires, why do you think they occur? Why do they happen?
In California.
Okay, that's where, right? So California, yeah. But why? Why do you think this happens?
Um, why? This is I think this is a big fear. So other news reported, and this is from lot of house. This is house. It belongs to the star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sometimes if the earth is not wet enough, right? If there has not been a lot of rain, then there would be a drought. And a drought is when there is no water. And of course, if it's really hot and there's no water, things can catch fire. So catch on fire. So the forest can catch on fire, right? So that's a problem. Are there forest fires in China?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in the Daxing mountain. This mountain has a fair, and a lot of the fairmen die. Um,
Yeah.
and they have their family, and some news report that in this mountain have lots of nature nature resorts, so they protect it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of forest fighters, firefighters, lose their lives. They die in the process of trying to save the fire, or sorry, save the forest. It's true. Yeah, that's a big problem. Okay, so which from the natural disasters that we talked about, which do you think are the most destructive? Which are the most destructive, in your opinion?
The most active, I think, the most destructive is the earthquake, because if the earthquake is big and a lot of people they don't have somewhere to protect them. They are there have the there have some there have some damage every time, and the earthquake can lead to a lot of things. The house, the house, the house, causes, causes, COLLATSE, the house causes, and I sent to teacher.
Okay.
The house causes.
Collapse.
And,
Collapse. Mm-hmm.
and the gas leakage leakage. The earthquake can lead lots of dangerous things. The fire and earthquake, and some earthquakes, and after the earthquake, some disease, have some disease,
Yeah.
and that can lead a lot of people die. So I think the earthquake is the most.
Yeah, I think I agree too. Yeah, earthquakes are very destructive. Also because there is no warning. Well, there's a warning, but very little warning, right? So a lot of people don't have time to prepare for an earthquake. So it's very scary. Yeah, and sometimes it's so powerful that the destruction is so immense and so powerful that it takes years for a city or for an area to rebuild. So it's really terrible. Okay, so that's good for today. We can continue this or talk about something else on Thursday. So then I'll talk to you then, okay? Have fun with your niece and nephew, okay? Have a good day. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.